Guys, Jared Bennett from Dreamtsoft here, and today we're going to be talking about our new relationships improvements available as of our 16 release. Now, without going too far into relationships, I'm going to jump right in, give you a quick preview of what's coming. To start that, I'm going to open up just kind of a standard incident here. I've got an HR portal issue. It looks like someone's having an issue logging into the portal. Now, by way of introducing old versus new, you may think, well, relationships, who cares? Everybody has relationships. And yes, that's true. But traditionally, relationships were done in what was usually called a reference field or kind of an advanced choice field like this. You're used to seeing that, where an incident gets assigned to a particular user. And essentially what you're doing with this is you're relating the incident to this particular user record. The challenge with that was always is that it's very difficult to flex this model. So if I want to assign it to more than one user, how do I do that? Well, often you can't. There's some limitations to be able to do that. Or if you do open it up to more than one person, then you have all sorts of administrative headaches. So what we've decided to do instead was crack open this relationships concept and really make it a first-class citizen. And what that means is that we've basically made it to where you can relate any record in Dreamtsoft to any other record in Dreamtsoft without having to go through the rigmarole of creating all these additional slots and schema and fields just to accommodate it. We've made it all part of this kind of relationships widget you're seeing down here, and it's going to come into play in several different ways. From a front end and a back end perspective, this is going to dramatically change how people interact with Dreamtsoft moving forward. One of the good examples of that is just kind of in your traditional incident management process. How do you get all the information in a complex system where there are companies and locations and users and services and CIs? How is it you navigate around to get all this information quickly so I don't have to leave and hunt and peck for all of my information? Well, you do it through the relationships widget. Let me show you how that would work on a day-to-day basis. So I've got an HR portal issue here, right? So I need to figure out how is it that I troubleshoot this incident and try to figure out what's going on. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to communicate with my end user, right? So I'm going to say, hey, we're on it. And this is kind of built into Dreamtsoft, not really much to talk about there. But also what I need to be able to do perhaps is bring in some of the company information, including particular representatives of the company that I'm supporting, their IT manager or their CIO or something like that, because I think this might be a larger issue. Well, how do I get to that information? Well, the first thing I can do is I can simply click on the company up here, and you'll note that the company, much like an incident, also has its own set of relationships down here. I've got financial approvers and subject matter experts, and here we go, CIO and Vita. And so what I can do if I want to is I can click on Kylie here, I click on Kobe, and if I need to make a phone call, I can. So using that relationship widget, I now get a lot of company context without having to do much else. I can make the mobile phone call right to Kobe right from here if I want to, right? Or what I can do is I can bring this person into the incident context using our mentions concept, right? So I can say, okay, Walter Marshall's the virtual IT manager over there. Hey, at Walter, heads up that this is going on. And what you're going to note is when I do this, watch what happens down here in the lower right-hand corner. What we're going to do is we're going to automatically add a relationship for Walter, so that now Walter is assisting in this incident. And so if Walter goes to their console, he's going to see all of the incidents that are affecting him, and of course this will now be one of those, right? So adding Walter via the activity log automatically going to happen, and you'll note I have a lot of people assisting with this incident. This is going to lead into our next swarming concept, where you bring in the right people at the right times. This is really kind of the foundations for being able to do that. Well, what else can I do? Well, I can add people manually if I want to. I can have certain people that assist, certain people that watch this record. So I can say, I just know that Alfreda's interested in the HR portal stuff. She mentioned that to me, so I'm going to go ahead and add her to this as well. You'll note the different types of relationships, couple watching, couple assisting, right? Okay, moving further than that. Okay, I know this is an HR portal issue, so what I can do is let me go and add the service here for the HR portal. And without doing much else, I can go through it and, just select it, wherever the heck it is. HR benefits portal, here we go. So yes, I want to add that to my affected services here. I know that's going to be an issue. So now I can start to hunt around the system and really start to leverage the relationships. Thus far, this is basically a modified form at this point with just a little bit more advanced functionality. But here's where this really gets magical. If I click on HR benefits portal, right, now you'll note that much like the company and the incident, my service, of course, also has relationships. Only these relationships are going to be CI related. Who's consuming this service? Who are the subscribers to this service? Who's what incidents are against this particular service? And more importantly, what is the software, in this case, who serves up? What are the CI infrastructure behind this HR benefits portal? Now, this in and of itself can be useful, and of course I can add relationships, but where this really comes into play here is this new relationship map. Along with the relationships data comes the ability now to map the entire system out as it's related. And so you'll note I have the consumers of this service sitting here. I have incidents and problems and changes that are against this service. But more importantly, let me zoom out just a little bit. You'll note that I can from here, I can start to troubleshoot the issue right here on the fly. This is the HR benefits portal. It is supported by this particular Tomcat application. And if I look down one level further, HR App 02 has this little skull and crossbones on it. That means that this particular application cluster or this application server is probably got something going on to it. There's a priority 1 incident, or there's a change request against. And you'll note that again, with relationships, I do have a change request going on. Looks like they're rebooting HR App 02. So without having to do much else, I can get from my incident to the service that's affected. And as quickly as could be, I can get to the source of the information should it be available to me to say, hey, this application server is having a problem. Let me see what's going on. And from here, of course, I can click on the change request and see what's happening. Oh, yeah. They're going to reboot HR app. Let me figure out what's going on. What's the execution plan? What are the details? Is there any issues? Are there any attachments, etc.? So you can start to get a sense of kind of what's happening with that. So very quickly, I can go through and say, okay, Mr. User, looks like they're, like it's rebooting. Blah, 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 whatever you wanted to say to the user, and now you're well on your way. Now, what else can I do? Well, also with relationships is not just the ability to add data as relationships, but we've also added the ability to customize the process by which you add certain kinds of relationships. So if I want to add a person, great. Then we're going to ask you what type of relationship you want. If I want to add a CI or a service or whatnot, I can do that directly. But if you really want to have some fun, what if I want to add a knowledge article, but I don't want to choose from the entire knowledge base? What if I want the context of HR Portal to automatically search for me? Well, you can do that. Using the new relationships concept, you can, per relationship, define a workflow, a visual workflow that says, hey, if they're going to search for knowledge, or if they're going to try to relate a knowledge article, have it search for HR Portal first. And you'll note, yep, here it is. There's the HR Portal. Here's the HR Portal URL. I'm going to select that. I'm going to add a relationship to that. And then, of course, whatever process you want on top of that. Email the users, etc. So relationships very useful from not only gaining data from a company perspective and quickly getting to the right people, adding the right people and adding multiple people to an incident, but of course being able to intelligently gather knowledge. And then the big one, of course, is the CMDB, being able to figure out and contextually troubleshoot issues from the actual structure that's supporting these particular this particular portal, this service, right? So relationships in a nutshell from a front end, pretty useful. Now, of course, you can have some fun with this. The relationships themselves are visually available. Now, some of this is of use and some of it isn't. From a CMDB perspective, very useful. You start doing it from other places, gets a little busy. But if you wanted to, those of you familiar with ITIL really in depth, this incident connects to this problem, which is solved by this change request, which is going to affect this CI, etc. Which, you look upstream, that it affects this portal, which is going to have Kylie and Aaron having problems. You can start to get some real value out of this information now finally all being brought together in one place, right? So we're looking forward to see what people do with that. Front end, very cool what we can do. Of course, the back end gets very interesting as well. You completely control the relationships in the system. You don't have to be doing schema or whatnot. You can go in here and make your own relationship definitions if you want. So if I look at all my incident relationships, knowledge base articles, services that are affected by an incident, and if I wanted to, just like I said a second ago, I can, as part of this defined service relationship, rather than just doing the selection if you want, like you saw a second ago, I can use a custom flow. I can go and add activities to here. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll show you an example of that. You noted just a moment ago, I tried to relate a knowledge article, and it didn't just give me a pick list. What it did was it did this find knowledge article. What that's doing is that's actually saying, hey, if you're on an incident and you're trying to choose a knowledge article, I want you to run through this flow. So for whatever reason you wanted to do a confirmation that says, are you sure you want to relate this knowledge article? You can do that. click OK, and now just like any other workflow, I can add this right into the flow here, and now I've modified my UI to be able to accommodate whatever my needs happen to be. Right? So relationships, very cool. Very excited to see what people do with it. Last thing I'll talk about is what we call relationship styles. You would have seen that just a moment ago. If I go into the services section here, my HR service, that skull and crossbones you saw on the map here, that skull and crossbones is not just based upon a particular application. That is actually dynamically being displayed based upon what we call a relationship style. Now, all of these icons are relationship styles per table, per bucket, but this particular icon is defined. It says, hey, if I've got a service that is directly affected by an open change request, then throw a skull and crossbones on here and make it red, right? And that, of course, also is completely configurable, as you can imagine. You go to UI and styling, here's your relationship styles, and you can go in and define these as needs be. This is my servers with an active normal change on it, and you can see I just simply went into here. This is a skull and crossbones icon, or whatever you want it to be. Color it red, size it medium, and et cetera, et cetera. So depending on how deep you want to go with this, you can really start to decorate that map visually to start to try to feed back some very relevant information, even more so than we have out of the box. So relationships are very exciting. This is going to be the future of how we do particular things in the system, specifically around administration. Many of you would have had challenges previously with, hey, how do I notify a particular group of people without adding all these fields all over the place? Well, now you can, of course. If I go to my notification actions on incident, this is the incident updated notification action. When someone updates an incident, this is what we do. Who do I send it to? Well, right now I'm going to send it to everyone that's assisting, the requested by person, and everyone that's watching. But what if I wanted to add it to the company's VCIO or the company's VITEM? How do I do that? Well, you can do that now. If you click the plus button, I can go through and navigate, and not only do I have the company's owner and basic reference fields, but now I have the relationship. So I can say, hey, when an incident is updated, notify the company's VITEM, whether that's one or multiple people, and you'll see that's added directly here, right? So again, first-classing relationships, big move for us. Excited to see what everyone does with that in the future.